Ben Stark here, recording another draft video for my YouTube channel. Welcome. We're doing another M20 traditional draft. Let's dive right into this pack here. So Temple of Epiphany. The temples are good and limited. I'll virtually always play them as long as they're one color on. They don't need to be both. Like, if I don't need to be blue-red to play the blue-red temple, I just need to be blue or red. That said, they're not that strong. They're not things you're looking to first pick. Blood for Bones, on the other hand, is very strong. There's a lot of creatures with comes into play abilities. There's just like a lot of value that can be created. Also, it just lets you sack your worst creature like a Sanitarium Skeleton or just something that already did its job and is just sitting in play, not doing much, and get your two best creatures back. And if you only have one creature in the graveyard, of course, you can always sack a creature in play to recur that one, and then you get both. So Blood for Bones is a really strong card. I'm not big on Gruesome Scourger. If I have an aggressive white, black, or red, black deck, I'll play it. But black is kind of a grindy, kind of control-ish color in this format, not really an aggro color. Might of the Masses is a good trick. Playable, nothing special. You should never be first picking it, but you should also almost never be cutting it from green decks. When we get to the commons in this pack, Aerial Assault's a fine removal spell. White has a lot of flyers. Audacious Thief, I've been calling the second best black common, and there's 3 common black removal spells, Murder, Bone Splinters, and Agonizing Siphon. And I would only take Murder over Audacious Thief. This card is really strong. Gets you the card right when it attacks, so if it trades with an opponent's 2/2, you're up a card. So if you trade your 3-drop for their 2-drop, let's say, but you draw a card, that's effectively like you paid a mana to go up a card during the game. You spent 3, they spent 2, both cards went to the graveyard, but you have an extra card in your hand. That's a really powerful card. If it keeps attacking multiple times, forget about it. Obviously, once in a while, it's completely blanked and it can't attack, but there's a lot of removal, a lot of tricks, a lot of ways to get it through. The rest of the commons in this pack aren't great. Silverback Shaman's been growing and growing on me. It's a very powerful card. The creatures are pretty small in this format a lot of the time. Trample is pretty strong on a 5/4. Drawing card when it dies is really nice. Another way to go up a card, of course, costs a lot more mana. I would take Audacious Thief over Silverback Shaman for sure if I had to pick between the commons. But Silverback Shaman's probably the second best common in this pack. So I think Blood for Bones is the pick. I think after that, my next choice would be Audacious Thief, followed by Silverback Shaman, followed by Aerial Assault. All in all, a pretty weak pack, but I don't think there's anything wrong with first picking a Blood for Bones. Okay, so taking a look at the top of this pack, Loaming Shaman's maybe more of a constructed card. Of course, you can play it in limited. It's a 3-mana 3/2, but that's not a good card. Bloodthirsty Aerialist, on the other hand, is a very good limited card. There's the whole cycle of lands that gain you life, and a lot of cards that gain you life, and you don't have to do very much of that. If you gain 1 life after you play this card, you got a 3-mana 3/4 flyer. That's a great card. If you gain 2 life, now it's bigger than an air elemental. So Bloodthirsty Aerialist is a very strong black card, especially if you can get it early and then can prioritize life gain. Meteor Golem is great. It's a slow, grindy format. There's ways to bounce, ways to recur. You just don't die with it in your hand that often in this format. It's great with Renowned Weaponsmith. Tap it for 2 mana, cast Meteor Golem for 5. Leafkin Druid will also often add 2 towards this. This is probably the best Meteor Golem's ever been, and it's a really nice card. And it's an artifact, so it can allow you to stay open. Granted, we first picked a black card. Pacifism is pretty much the same as always. It's a fine removal spell. I mean, there's ways to bounce and unlock the creature, like on Summon in this very pack. But for 2 mana, it's a solid, efficient removal spell. Siphon, I'm not super high on. The fact that this can go to the player doesn't matter that much, because again, black's not a very aggressive color in this format. 4 mana to deal 3 is just not a great rate. This is a playable card. I'm never cutting the first copy from my deck. But without synergies, or if I'm not an aggro deck, I'm not taking this card aggressively at all. On Summon is a nice trick. There's plenty of value creatures, plenty of removal. Some games come down to tempo, racing with flyers. On Summon is just a good card. You don't want a million copies of it in a lot of decks, but it's a strong common. So as far as this pack, I think basically you're looking at Aerialist if you want to go black, and it's probably the best card in the pack. You're looking at Meteor Golem, keeps your options open, and it's probably the next best card in the pack after Aerialist. And I would first pick Meteor Golem over Aerialist for sure, because it's an artifact. It can go in any deck. But we did first pick a good black uncommon, and I do think Aerialist is better than Meteor Golem, so that gives us an interesting choice. Pacifism, probably the best common, and then there's On Summon, which I think I would take over Agonizing Siphon, and then there's Agonizing Siphon and Chandra's Embercat. Pretty weak. Soul Salvage is still a nice one for any deck, but I do think the first Siphon is probably better than the first Salvage, especially because Salvage has really heavy diminishing returns. Like, I love the first Salvage, but I don't necessarily want to end up with 4 of that card. Not that I'm looking to end up with 4 Siphons either. So here I think it's really just Bloodthirsty Aerialist or Meteor Golem. I think that it's too early to be taking Aerialist over Meteor Golem. We're not black just because we have a Blood for Bones. Blood for Bones is splashable. I think we just take the good artifact and see what's in the next pack. Okay, so the first 2 uncommons aren't things we're really going to look at. Rule of Law and Noxious Grasp. Noxious Grasp's a great sideboard card, but that doesn't mean we want to be taking it here over other good cards. Rule of Law is foreconstructed. You should never put that card in any limited deck, nor board it in just because your opponent has cheap cards. Unless your opponent drafted Storm in M20 Draft, which is not possible, don't board in Rule of Law. Ironroot Warlord's really, really good. It is 2 colors, splashable, so you can play green anything and play it pretty easily, but you do need to be green and white, but it's a very strong card. Its power counts itself, so it's a 3-mana 1/5 right off the bat. If you have other creatures, it's bigger than that. And then it makes creatures. That's just a ridiculous card for limited. Reduced to Ashes is another efficient removal. 5's not cheap, but it's going to kill pretty much anything. You even get the bonus of exiling in a format with a pretty good amount of recursion. So, solid card, not something you're looking to take aggressively. This pack's overall pretty bad. We could take Siphon. We could take Warlord. I don't think there's much else. Blood Burglar's a solid 2, but 2-mana 2/2 is really just not that good in this format. I guess. I mean, I really don't want a third pick Agonizing Siphon, but Ironroot Warlord being 2 different colors, neither of which is black. This pack has a lot of black cards in it. I don't know. This is a tough pick. I gotta assume that the bots passing us are probably not playing black if we're seeing all these black cards, but it is also only third pick. Ironroot Warlord, Reduced to Ashes, and Agonizing Siphon are basically the reasonable cards to take here. Ironroot Warlord's definitely the best of the 3, but it's a green, white, gold card. Siphon, probably the worst of the 3. Actually, definitely the worst of the 3. Reduced to Ashes is better than Agonizing Siphon, but it would go with our Blood for Bones. And Blood for Bones does go with Meteor Golem pretty well, too. Granted, Meteor Golem does go well in green decks with Leaf King Druids to ramp it out, and Blood for Bones could be splashed pretty easily. I think Ironroot Warlord's just enough better than Siphon and Reduced to Ashes. Even though it's going to put us kind of all over the place for this draft, I think it's just the right pick. So Rapacious Dragon is kind of a weird uncommon, other than the fact that it's fancy. It's a fine card. I'll play it in any red deck, but its power level is more that of a common. Diamond Knight is not a card I like a lot. I think this card is highly overrated. Because it's a slow format, sometimes you'll see it grow into an effective creature. But on turn 3, it's a 1/1, so if your opponent's pressuring you, it just basically can't block. You play something next turn, it grows to a 2/2. That's a horrible card. It grows a third time to a 3/3. Now you're at, like, an okay card. Don't get me wrong, it can keep growing. I like this card if I'm one color. I like this card if I'm very heavy one color and I have a lot of recursion and card drawing. Like, if you soul salvage 2 black creatures back and then play them, your 1 soul salvage basically gave +3/+3 to this Diamond Knight. So if you're really heavy in one color or you've got a lot of card drawing and a lot of recursion, then Diamond Knight gets better. But I don't think this is an auto-include in any deck. I think this card is way overplayed. Audacious Thief. I've already talked about it. I love this card. I'm probably going to take it. I consider it the second best black common, and black, it might be the best color. Black and blue, I think, are the best colors in this format. Black super deep. Lots and lots of good commons, but Audacious Thief is really special. Otherwise, I don't know what I would take. I'm regretting the Ironroot Warlord, but we didn't know this pack was going to have Thief as the best card, Dragon as probably the second best card, and no really good green or white cards. That's the thing about staying open. We missed out on an Agonizing Siphon at the moment, but what if this pack had a Pacifism or a Leaf King Druid as the best card instead of an Audacious Thief? So here, though, I think we take Thief. So speaking of cards I like a lot, the black commons in this pack, Gorging Vulture and Sanitarium Skeleton, they're just the grindiest cards in the grindiest format. Vulture's a 3-mana 2/2 that gains you a life for each creature it mills, and mills 4 cards, which is nice. It puts cards in your graveyard for Blood for Bones, for Soul Salvage. Heck, if you mill a Sanitarium Skeleton, you can then get it back for free, and you're up a skeleton. Skeleton combos with Bone Splinters, combos with Blood for Bones, which we have. It just also is a great blocker. If your opponent has out a 5/5 and a 2/1, what are they supposed to do if you have a skeleton out? If they attack with the 5/5, you block, bounce it to your hand. If they attack with both, you block, eat the 2/1, bounce it to your hand, take some damage, and then the skeleton can stop the 5/5. Skeleton is just one of those cards that I think performs way better than it looks. Other than the black cards, Pulse is pretty good. The 6 life offsets spending 3 mana to not impact the board, and then it gets back your best dead creature. And Reduced to Ash is a solid removal spell that you're always looking to have. Our curve is not super high at the moment. We don't have 2-drops, but other than Meteor Golem, we have 2 3s and a 4, and this 1 3 we're kind of unlikely to play. I think here there's no reason to look at Pulse. I just wanted to mention that I like that card because it's the kind of card that can be tough to evaluate. If it didn't gain you the 6, it wouldn't be playable. But 6 life is a lot of life. It's going to be pretty hard for your opponent to kill you before you can recast and use whatever good creature you got back if you gain 6. It can also put you out of range in the mid to late game if you've managed to stabilize at 2 or something like that. Because there is Shock and Chandra's Outrage that deal 2 damage to the opponent, and Agonizing Siphon that does 3 to the opponent. So getting your life total out of range can be valuable in this format. There is reach. I'm not looking at Pulse here, though. I'm looking at Reduced to Ashes, Gorging Vulture, and Sanitarium Skeleton. I would pretty much always take the first Skeleton over the first Vulture, especially this early in a draft. They both have somewhat diminishing returns, but I think you want to get Skeleton first. Then you can try and mill Skeleton with Vulture and get it for free. Also, you want to be able to take Bone Splinters fairly aggressively, and that requires having a Skeleton or 2, I think. Reduced to Ashes is probably better than Vulture and Skeleton, but not by a lot, and we're not in red yet. So I think here I'm just going to take Skeleton. So this pack's the first really, really bad pack we've seen. The top row is pretty much unplayable. Well, let me talk about Duress and Negate for a minute, though. Don't. I keep seeing people play these cards. You should never main deck Duress, and you shouldn't even board it in just because your opponent has a bunch of good removal. Sometimes it's going to whiff. That, when it hits, you've spent a mana, they've spent none, and you've traded with a good card. That's okay. That can produce positive value. But that will never offset when it whiffs. If this card whiffs, you just played a blank piece of cardboard or digital, whatever it would be online, some blank code. It's just not doing anything. The upside of being able to pay a mana and trade this with a good card from your opponent's hand when they haven't spent any mana is just not worth it. If you see your opponent has multiple Bone Dashes or something and you want to board it in because you'll be able to identify when they have a card in hand because they keep leaving their mana up, and then you can Duress and guaranteed hit it, that's one thing. Do not main deck Duress. Do not board it in just because your opponent has some good removal. Negate, similar story. It's a better card to board in because it's never going to really whiff. If you see your opponent has a lot of spells, you can board it in and then you'll probably get something sooner or later. Don't main it unless you have ways to loot it away, though. The gains just don't offset the losses. You can lose a close game with this card in your hand, having never had the opportunity to play it. Whereas if you win a game by countering something of theirs, unless it was a truly key card, that's not going to provide that much value. It's just a 1-for-1. So I board in Negate a lot against decks with a lot of good spells. I don't main Negate often. And I don't board in Duress hardly ever. Now to the bottom row. Well, the bottom row is actually almost as bad as the top row, except Destructive Digger's decent, Brightwood Tracker's decent. Actually, Scorch Spitter has been a little bit of an overperformer for me, too, because red is a really aggressive color in this format. And there's stuff like the 3-mana 2/2 Goblin that can make it unblockable, and Blade Brand, and plenty of removal. So you have the ability to keep pushing it through. Plus, it's an elemental, so that triggers some synergies. But that said, it's not a good card. And I do like Destructive Digger, but it's actually kind of underperformed from how I thought it would be. I love a nice 3-drop like this that's serviceable on turn 3 and then could be a card drawing engine in a stalemate in the late game. But that's just not really how the games have played out. Because red is so aggressive and this format is so grindy, you need to be actively trying to kill the opponent with most of your red decks, or you lose the late game and something like Digger is not going to help you. Granted, if you have a black-red deck, like the one we would have going if I start taking red cards, that's where Digger might be at its best. We can win through recursion and through value. We don't have to win through straight aggression. So here, there's nothing really good for us. This pack sucks. Not just because there's no playable black cards, but because there's not really anything good of any color. Convolute's like an okay playable if you come up short. Digger, like I said, is a fine red card. Tracker's fine. I think given we have Warlord, Tracker's probably the pick. I think Tracker and Digger are pretty close. Tracker's probably a little bit better. And if we do go black-green, then we could splash this Ironroot Warlord. At the moment, I have no idea what our colors are going to be except black. We've seen a lot of black in this draft and not much else. Okay, I know it deviates from what I just did, but now I'm going to take Keldon Raider. I don't really love Growth Cycle. It's an okay playable. Keldon Raider can be pretty good in these kind of black-red decks. You can discard your skeleton. And I don't want to miss Raider here to get a Growth Cycle. Nothing great here, but it does seem like there's red playables coming around late, so I'm going to grab this Bird Grabber in case red-black is where we end up. I don't really like Fire Elemental. Generic big creatures without trample aren't good. There's nothing really in this pack. So now, Reckless Airstrike's a good sideboard card. We are playing traditional best of 3. Fathom Fleet Cutthroat is a nice one of. Sometimes I'll even play 2. Bone Nash is good. You don't want a ton of it, but the first one is a nice card in any deck. I feel like Cutthroat here, black's the color we're most committed to. It's probably the best overall card, and we do need our main deck cards. This is an easy Soul Salvage. The first copy is very good. Loaming Shaman is fine, not something you're really looking to play, even if we end up green. Now I'm going to take second Cutthroat over first Digger because we know we're black. Even if we know we're red, I won't care about missing out on this Digger. I'm going to go back, though, and take Bone Dash here. We could still very easily play black-blue. Ripscale Predator is not a great card. Prismite is not really playable unless you absolutely need it. Okay, well, I guess the bots aren't drafting red. Tabling this Goblin Bird Grabber here, like 12th pick, 13th pick, that would be reasonable. Tabling Reduced Ashes, that's not reasonable. But I guess red is open, so we probably have our second color. So the best card in this pack is Spectral Sailor. Spectral Sailor is fantastic. But that said, we saw virtually no blue, just a Bone Dash or 2 late, and we did table Reduced Ashes 13th pick. Table means you pass a card and it comes back around the table to you, by the way. So I don't think we should be looking at blue. I think we should be looking at red-black if this Reduced Ashes is coming 13th pick. Shared Summons actually is worth a mention. This card's better than it looks. It's not draw 2. By the time you have 5 mana, you rarely need more lands. So something like Search for 2 Planeswalkers or Search for 2 Creatures is a lot stronger than just draw 2. Because when you draw 2, you're going to get like 0.8 lands on average or something that you really just don't need. So this is going to go grab 2 big creatures for the late game. So it's a good card. I'm not taking it because we got that Reduced Ashes 13th, and there was Bird Grabber in that pack, and Raider late. So I feel like red-black is where I'm supposed to be. But Shared Summons is better than it looks. It's an auto-include in any green deck. Sailor's just a fantastic card. 1-mana 1/1 Flyer is better on turn 1 than you would think, because you generally don't play 1-mana 1/1 Flyer. It can easily deal 7-8 damage if you play it turn 1. The reason you don't play 1-mana 1/1 Flyers in your deck generally is not because they're not a good play on turn 1. It's because if you draw them at any other point in the game, they're going to do absolutely nothing. But this card wins any stalemate, provides value anytime you don't have anything to do with your mana. Spectral Sailor is excellent, first pickable. Warden is also excellent. There's tons of Flyers. Vampire of the Dire Moon's a pretty big game. This card's a lot better than it looks. So, Sedge Scorpion, the biggest problem with it, the 1/1 Death Touch without lifelink, the green one, is it's a good blocker, but if you attack, your opponent can just take 1. Well, they can take 1 from Vampire, but then you're gaining 1 also. That's a 2-point life swing. It's just a lot more than a 1-point life swing, which is what it is when a Sedge Scorpion attacks. So here I think we have we're going to stay black. We're not going to look at the blue cards, even though Sailor's the best card in the pack. So we just have to decide whether we like Vampire of the Dire Moon or Audacious Thief more. They're both excellent. I'd be happy to play like any number virtually of Vampire or Thief in my deck. We've got a 1-drop. I don't really want to play Scorch Bitter. unless I get a bunch of reasons. We're pretty heavy black. I think it's a close pick. I think I'm gonna lock up a good 1-drop where I can and take Vampire, but I might regret this. Thief could definitely be better. Whoa. Well, there's a curveball. So, unfortunately, we didn't open this pack last pack and then get past Spectral Sailor, because I would have took Moo over Vampire of the Dire Moon. Spectral Sailor wasn't good enough to go into a color that we weren't really seeing when we have 2 colors that we are seeing. Moo is. Moo is an incredible game-winning mythic. If you play this on turn 3, the plus should neutralize your opponent's creature, and the next turn you have an air elemental and Moo's still in play. I mean, that's just ridiculous. If we don't take it, there's Mask, which I like more in red-black than in other decks because it combos well with Skeleton, but it's not a card I like very much. I don't think it's very good since it doesn't give +1/+1 or anything to the creature. Bone Splinters would be my pick. I would take Bone Splinters over Mask. Bone Splinters looks fine in this deck. We've got a Skeleton. It's only the start of the pack 2. But Moo is too good to not take, I think. We might have to drop it, but I'm not going to regret missing 1 Bone Splinters that much. If we do keep seeing blue cards, I'm happy to drop our red and play Moo and just play a few blue cards in my black-blue deck. So, a bit of a curveball. Would have been nice to see a black or red rare. Would have been nice to open Moo and then get past Sailor. But can't control when the cards come. Just take the broken 3-mana Planeswalker that makes 4/4 flyers whenever it's passed to me. Okay, so now that we're looking at black-blue, this seems like a pretty clear Bone Splinters. It's probably the best overall card of the pack anyway. Scampering Scorcher could be interesting if we already had a couple Splinters and we wanted something that made a bunch of creatures, but we don't. So, not really any good black or blue main deckable cards here. Noxious Grasp is a good sideboard card. You can main it if you have a few ways to get rid of it when it's dead, or if you get some Scuttlemates to change the color of their creatures. We don't have any of that yet, but we still do have a pack in 2/3 or something. Epicure is pretty mediocre. I'll play it sometimes in like a black-white life gain deck or something. I would never play it in this deck. Or it's a vampire, so you play it if you get, I think it's Sorin, the Vampire Lord in this format, the Planeswalker. But we don't have that. So I think Noxious Grasp is just a lot better than any of the black or blue cards. Scampering Scorcher, but we're not going to go back to red. We have Moo. Moo is worth playing blue over red when we don't have a strong second color yet. That is one of the advantages of drafting the hard way and keeping your options open. Sometimes, at least into the start of pack 2, if you open a broken card in any color, you can still audible there. Nothing here that we really want either, but I can't be missing on playables every pick when we're going to have to drop a lot of these probably. So I'm going to grab Convolute. Now, here's another card that I'm going to talk about for a little bit. Renowned Weaponsmith. This card is a lot better than it was the last time we saw it. This format is so grindy that it's perfectly fine to put Vial and Bow in your deck, even though they're not good cards, if you can search them out. And it's perfectly fine to spend the time searching for them. Anything that provides you extra cards in this format is good. Renowned Weaponsmith has been one of the cards that has overperformed the most from how I would have expected. This card is just excellent. It's going to add 2 mana towards Meteor Golem. We don't have Vial or Bow yet, so it might not end up being busted in this deck, but if we still have a pack and a little bit left to get them, and if we can, we will. Can also use Prismite with Weaponsmith, not that that's some kind of sick combo. Portal's another card that is better than it looks. If you have things that it works with, it's pretty sweet. So I want to take Sprite, but I'm going to take Bow. We already have Weaponsmith. We already have Meteor Golem, so we want to play the Weaponsmith because it can add 2 mana towards our most expensive card. It's important that we have a Bow to search out. But Sprite is effectively a 2-power flyer for 2 mana. You can usually afford to sink in a mana into it when you need to. I mean, maybe not on turn 3 or 4, so you miss a damage or 2. That's fine. At the end of the day, this can trade with 2 toughness flyers. This can trade with 2 toughness ground creatures. This can hit for 2 a turn in the air once you're turn 5 or 6 plus. This is a very nice 2-drop. I will happily take them and play any number of them in virtually any deck, but I can't take it over Bow when I have a Weaponsmith I want to use. Okay, these cards don't matter. These cards don't matter. Let's do a little cleanup since we did get blue cards late there. We are 100% locked on black-blue now. So let's go ahead and move out stuff that we're definitely not going to play so we can see the deck a little better. Okay, cool. I mean, I'm not going to play Befuddle or Zephyr Charge in a black-blue deck, or any deck for that matter. Okay. Wow. Oh, good stuff. So there's two cards here that I would love to get, and they are Knight of the Ebon Legion and Spectral Sailor. Kind of crazy playing blue and having to pass two Spectral Sailors. Of course, I wasn't really blue the first time because we saw it one pick before the Moo. But Knight of the Ebon Legion is ridiculous. This is just an incredible one-drop. When you attack with this and pump it, it then grows to a 2/3 permanently because you're dealing 4. Blocking it is hopeless. For 3 mana, it turns into a 4/5 Death Touch, and this is not a Root Walla. You can pump it more than once a turn. So once you have 6, it's a 7/8 Death Touch. This card is ridiculous. It's a clear pick over Spectral Sailor, and I don't say that lightly. Spectral Sailor is first pickable, and the right pick there, Knight of the Ebon Legion. Risen Reef is a broken uncommon, but we can't splash green at this point. We don't have any lands to do that. We don't have an Evolving Wilds. We already have a pretty high power level. It's pack 3, and the best blue common is in the pack, Cloudkin Seer. Don't get me wrong, Risen Reef is a lot better than Seer, but we're not going to just toss too far, send this Prismite in our deck to try and cast Risen Reef. We're going to take Cloudkin Seer. Goes well with everything we're doing. It's grindy. It can work with Portal if we play that. It's just an all-around good card. It's not a one-card combo deck like Risen Reef is, but it's an all-around good card. We're getting rewarded pretty heavily here. This draft turned out really well. Tome-bound Lich is amazing. You get the loot right when you play it, so you get to discard an excess land or a skeleton or something, basically go up a card, and then anytime it connects, you would also go up a card, or at least loot, so they can't really ignore it. If you're behind, it can block their biggest creature. If you're ahead, it can be a nightmare to deal with. If they double block it, and then you have a removal for the bigger thing, it could just end up eating their small creature and live. Just an all-around excellent card. Combos well with Skeleton, but so does everything in this format. All right, nothing here I actually want. Our curve is not very high, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a Necromancer. It's a fine playable 5-drop. Nothing special, not a great card, but perfectly fine. Now let's go back and look at the other end of our curve. If we don't have enough 2-drops, I would take Sprite. If we do, I would take Vulture. So we got a bunch of 1-drops. That's a 2. Probably not looking to play Prismite. So we don't have a lot of 2s. We do have a bunch of 1s, though. But I don't want to fall behind. Sprite and Vulture and Frostlings, these are all the kind of cards that I consider to be close enough in power level that you're just trying to fill out your curve. Hitting your curve is a lot more important than the difference in quality between these 3 commons. And on turn 2, all we have right now to do is Weaponsmith, so I'm going to go ahead and grab another good 2-drop while it's there. Speaking of grabbing good 2-drops while it's there, Yarrick's Fenlurker is a card I like a lot. I've always liked Ravenous Rats, grindy things that give you value, but the problem with Ravenous Rats is it's not really 2-for-1ing them if all you get's a 1/1. You don't have to pump this much before it's a walking 2-for-1. If they're attacking you with 2 toughness creatures, you block, you pump, you trade. If you're in the late game, it could actually grow to a 3/3 or a 4/4 and then be like a really serviceable creature. But at the end of the day, this card's going to take a card from their hand and then trade with something. It's an almost guaranteed 2-for-1. Just a really nice card. So while I love Skeleton, they do have diminishing returns. The 3rd Skeleton is not as good in your deck as the 2nd. The 4th is not as good as the 3rd. The 2nd is only the 2nd. You're not going to draw 2 of 2 very often, and if you do, heck, you're not going to draw any more, and it's going to be hard for the opponent to attack with 2 toughness creatures because you can just double block. Happy to get a 2nd Skeleton. Would always play 2 copies of it in my deck. Also happy to get a 2nd Vampire of the Dire Moon. That's a really late Vampire. We knew we were seeing black this draft. We definitely found the open color here with black. Got hooked up a bit with blue, but we're seeing red also, it looks like. You can see 3 red cards here that can be solid. So I think red-black were the colors that we were most supposed to be. But I'm absolutely happy I went blue-black. We got pretty good blue, and Moo is broken. Moo is like a Windmill Slam first pick broken card. Okay, looks like we're going to have to make a couple cuts. This is probably a 17 land deck. You might be wondering why I put Stone Golem right into the playables. Well, with Renowned Weaponsmith, 2 colorless for an artifact, you can play a 4/4 on turn 3. That's not a big deal, but it is nice. Alright, so this isn't an aggressive deck, so first I'm going to cut 1 Cutthroat. We'll play 1 probably, but not 2. Then let's see if there's any bad cards that slip through. No, not really. We kind of want all of these. Can cut Convolute since we got enough playables. Maybe second Bone Nash. It's a nice card to have one of, but if you start leaving up all that mana all the time, your opponent's going to play around it. If we play against a deck full of expensive creatures, we can always board the second back in. Okay, not missing anything in the sideboard here. This looks right to me. We've got 2 5s, one of which we can cheat and play with Weaponsmith. 1 7, which also Weaponsmith adds mana for. And then... oh, I guess we have to look at Portal and see if I have enough stuff with Synergy. I might not. I don't think we have a lot. It's pretty great with Fenlurker, and by pretty great I mean totally amazing. You can get a loot every time you bounce and replay that. Draw a card when you bounce and replay that. Can work with Cutthroat, can work with Necromancer, can work with Metro Golem, a Meteor Golem. And also we can cast it on the cheap with Weaponsmith. That's enough synergy for me. So this deck came together really nicely. I think I got pretty lucky. Definitely red-black were the right colors for the seat, but my blue-black deck is better than my red-black deck would have been because Moo. And we ended up seeing pretty decent blue in Pack 3. I got pretty lucky there with the Lich and the Seer. All in all, it's a good curve, pretty solid removal, pretty high power level with Knight of the Ebon Legion and Moo. I like my chances. If I draw well to get 5 wins, I think this deck ended up very good. Well, we're playing 9 swamps. We're on the draw. We've got two islands and a Moo. You can't mulligan that. Magic at its finest. As much as I love the London Mulligan, how it lets you mulligan a little more aggressively and not get scarred and limited, when you've got the best card in your deck in your hand and the mana to play at turn 3 and you're on the draw and you just have to peel 1 land in 3 draw steps to almost get a turn 3 win, you can't mulligan. You just have to hope you get there. Okay, so we're going to have 2 creatures to protect Moo, so we should be good. We'll make a 4/4, put out another good blocker. This way, of course, if they have removal for 1, they're not killing our Planeswalker. Which, by the way, it's turn 4, and we have a 4/4 flyer in play. This is already an undercosted air elemental at this point. The question now is it going to do even more? So Trample is pretty tough to stop with Muda. So we definitely want to kill that. So let's go ahead and play Skeleton. Even though this isn't an efficient turn, I don't want to leave them with a Trampler when I have this great Planeswalker to protect. And the plus shrinks something. So what I will do now is attack with the 4/4 flyer because we've got the 1/1 back to stop the Inspiring Captain. In the event that they have Pacifism or Rabid Bite, sure, they can take out the Vampire and hit Moo, but they shouldn't be able to kill it anyway. They'd have to use a Pump Spell 2, so they'd have to play 2 different cards. And even if they do all that, we got our 4/4 flyer. So we're not going to miss an attack here with a 4/4, but we are going to be conservative and use Bone Splinters and take out Shaman because it has Trample, and I don't really want to leave it around. To be honest, I'm probably just going to go ahead and make another 4/4 flyer now. It's pretty hard for me to imagine the opponent's going to beat multiple 4/4 flyers. Green's best ability to deal with them would be like a Mammoth Spider, which would just bounce with 1. And I've got a pretty good hand. I can recur this vampire. I don't think we need to keep it around by plussing it and then making stuff. I think at this point it just makes sense. Just kind of going aggro. Still going to play the Stone Golem over the Flyer just because it's more mana efficient. It'll block the Golos. Anyway. But yeah, as you can see, Moo is totally broken. I definitely figured plenty out. I think I was very quick to figure out Thief and Skeleton being a lot better than they look, but I'm not going to take any credit for Moo. That card is just obviously broken. It's a 3-mana Planeswalker that makes 4/4 flyers. If you want to judge how good a Planeswalker is, the combination of casting cost to size of creatures it either kills or makes is a good starting point. And I don't know if we've ever seen a 3-mana Planeswalker that can crank out 2 4/4 flyers by turn 5 or 6 like this. It's just a ridiculous card. Okay, they're not interacting in the air right now, so pretty easy here. We'll just attack with our flyers. Add another one to the board, because if they end up sweeping the board or something, we have recursion anyway. And back to you, opponent. Not exactly sure what the opponent thinks is happening here. I'm probably going to go ahead and attack with my flyers. None of these creatures have reach. Some people are fighters. Not me. I would have conceded on the opponent's turn. So we're playing against green-white. Noxious Grasp kills a green or white creature. I'm in. Other than that, not much to do. They're going to be on the play, so we probably aren't really attacking and cutthroating things very often. I think we can just cut that. Seems reasonable to me. So we saw Growth Cycle, which usually means more than one. Also, Season of Growth, which the enchantment, I think that's what it's called, the 2-mana one, which is a card that also is a lot better than it looks in my opinion. The way Scry 1 works is if you do it once, okay, like maybe that's not that big of an advantage, but if you're scrying, most of the time you're going to be scrying lands away, because once you have enough lands, you don't want more generally in limited, and that means you're going to be, well, drawing creatures, because that's mostly what your deck is besides lands. Then those creatures also give you Scry 1. So you get to like chain Scry value and basically win the game off of that 2-mana card. And that's without the other side. Green has a removal spell, Rabid Bite, that targets your creature and theirs, so it lets you draw a card. I wouldn't fill your deck with pump spells just because you have one of those, but there's nothing wrong with playing 1 or 2 just as tricks. Well, this game we might have to grind for it. Doesn't look like we're going to be doing turn 3 Moo unless 2 of our first 3 draw steps are an island and a Moo. But pretty good hand on the draw here. We've got the early vampires to trade with things, and then the weaponsmith to search out that bow. Unfortunately, I didn't get a vial. Not going to trade with healer because it's a 1-power creature and they already gained their 3 life. I don't generally put healer into like random green aggro decks or things like that, but green is pretty much like a ramp power color in this format, not really like aggressive, and elementals is one of the things it does best. So if I have some elemental synergies, I'm perfectly happy to play a healer. If I'm like a green, white, green, red, not elemental, just attack you, pump spells, removal deck, then I usually wouldn't play healer. Generally, I'm looking for about 2 synergies or just an incredible late game for me to want to put that card in my deck. Okay, so we could cast Portal here, or we could search with Weaponsmith. Probably better off just searching. Takes away the risk of drawing it. We could use it for 2 mana and then pay a blue and play Portal, and then we still have our 1 for Vamp. I think I'm just going to play Vamp, though, and search with Weaponsmith end of their turn. Like I said, the risk of drawing it is real. There's 30 cards in our deck, so we're 1 in 30 to draw it. And we really need lands, so I'm decreasing the chances, or I'm increasing the chances of us drawing a land and getting rid of the chances of us drawing the 1 bow, which, again, it's not that likely, but it is a thing that can happen. I'm not in a rush to get the Sprite out or to get the Portal out. We wouldn't really be doing anything with them yet. So pretty happy to just go ahead and search that out. Okay, and now that it's in my hand, I have to choose whether to play it or loot it away. I'll do that after I cast Lich. So, what do we want to discard? They're stuck on 1. We could discard bow. It doesn't give... It's not the creature dealing the damage, it's the bow. So putting it on a death touch, which all of our creatures have, doesn't work. I mean, it works in that the creature can always safely attack and can't be eaten, and I'll get to ping, but the bow deals the 1, not the creature. We could discard Island. We still need a swamp to cast Necromancer. We do want 4 lands, but we can cast our whole hand except the Necromancer. And this game doesn't look like it's necessarily going anywhere soon. Portal works with Necromancer, nothing else in our hand. I think I'm going to discard that bow. It's pretty funny given I just talked so much about searching it out, but ultimately what we did there was still just draw a card. We put an extra card in our hand, and then we played a draw 1, discard 1, and discarded it, so that means we're up a card. It turns out they didn't play any 1 toughness creatures yet because they're stuck on 1, and we discarded the bow, but that doesn't mean... it didn't provide the Weaponsmith searching it into our hand so we could then loot it away. Didn't provide nice value, put us up a card. And I want to be able to assemble this combo, so I'm not trying to discard too many extra lands here. Now, though, Seer draws another card, and it's another island, not a swamp, so I am going to discard that island. Not the best match of Magic I've ever played. 1 game, turn 3 Moo, the other game, the opponent's mana screwed. But it's not single elimination. I hope the opponent has better draws next round, and hopefully we'll get a better match. Not that I'm complaining. I mean, look, that's the way Magic is. I mean, if I'm going to turn 3 Moo every game, every round, I'll take it, right? But, I mean, it doesn't make for the most interesting games when you play broken Mythic Rares on turn 3. I've often half-joking, half-seriously suggested that they should just ban the Rares and Mythics from Limited. So I chose to draw because I have 2 Vampires, the 1/1 Lifelink Death Touch, so I can't really get run over. My deck's pretty grindy. I think it just makes sense to draw with this deck. If I knew I was going to have Moo turn 3, I'd want to play. Planeswalkers are better on the play. But it's 1 card, and it's double blue. We have 8 islands in this deck. All in all, I just think drawing makes more sense. Generally, people always ask me, because I do like to draw first a lot, they say, what makes you draw first? Well, the more your cards and their cards can interact, the more you want to draw. If a game is going to be a race, then you want to play first. If one deck is trying to kill the other while they still have a bunch of cards in hand, then you want to play first. If they're going to put out a creature and you're going to block it, and you're going to put out a creature and block it, they're going to put out a creature, you're going to kill it, then you want to draw. Because there's not an advantage to being on the play unless your attacks are getting through. So in a format like this, with Shock at common, and with the 1 mana 1/1 uncommon Lifelink Death Touch that I have 2 of, I feel like if you get cards like those that line up in a way where, if you get cards like that vampire that I have two of that allow you to be able to choose to draw, then you should take advantage of that. A lot of times you won't have cards like that. You can't just draw first with every deck. Sometimes in this format you play flyers versus big green creatures. The games are a race, and you just can't choose to draw first. But in the event that you do get cards that allow you to, like I did in this draft, I'm going to choose to draw. And that means basically cheap Death Touch creatures are great blockers, shocks, cheap efficient removal. That's what you're looking for in order to choose draw. Okay, pretty fortunate draw there. It was an aggressive attack with the Knight because they could clearly have a pump spell, but they could also just not have a pump spell. I'm not really one to just pass turns in spots like that and miss out on the advantage just because they might have something. If they have it, even though this is a broken rare, it's a broken rare because of how cheap and efficient it is. If I'm stalled on mana, I'm going to want to spend my mana casting things, not pumping my Knight. So this card's not necessarily going to overperform in that type of game. And if they do use something there, ultimately the bow's still going to live to take out the Scorpion again later. So all that happened was they traded Growth Cycle for the Knight, which is fine. We'll get back to business. Basically, I don't play around things in spots unless I'm going to be able to get a lot more value by doing so over the next few turns. And I didn't really think that was going to be the case. I mean, because I didn't have blue mana, I could have definitely waited the one turn just so I could pump Knight if they had a pump spell or something like that. And then it would get Death Touch, so I would at least still kill their creature. But again, why do I even want to kill this with that? I can just take it out for free with the bow later. I don't necessarily even want to spend my 3 mana to kill this Edge Scorpion. So I think it was right to attack. You could certainly play around something in that spot, but you can't just play around things indefinitely unless you're going to be able to, and I didn't feel that was the case. Okay, it looks like we're well positioned to protect Moo now, so it's Moo time. I'm not going to attack on the ground because that's just going to give the opponent the potential ability to chump block with a skeleton and draw cards. I can't actually attack in the air either because I have to block both their creatures so that Moo doesn't take any damage. That's fine, though. I could have considered shrinking the skeleton. This way I could just block the Cutthroat with the Stone Golem and ignore the skeleton. The downside, though, is if they had removal for Stone Golem, then I'd have a 2-1 facing a 3-3 Cutthroat, and I'd pretty much have to chump block. Now, if they remove Stone Golem, I would just let the creatures hit the Moo, because, well, they're a 1-2 and a 1-3. So, I guess I did make a mistake in not attacking with the Seer if I'm not going to block with it. But I was thinking about putting it on the skeleton. If they didn't play that removal and attacked with both, I would probably have put Stone Golem on Cutthroat and Seer on skeleton. Now I'm just not going to block because I don't have a profitable block this turn. So I'm not going to look to kill my Moo off next turn. Like if I put Seer on skeleton there, they draw a card, they pay 3 mana and buy the skeleton back to their hand. Moo's on 3. I still have to kill it to make an Air Elemental. Now what I'm going to do is just wait a turn, put out another good blocker. We already have 2 creatures to get back, but I kind of want to use these lands, so I think I'll discard the Golem, because then I can just play the land in the salvage. Grab back the Knight and the Meteor Golem, plus the Moo. I'm going to do the skeleton this time, because I want to attack with the Seer, and I think it's unlikely they're going to have a second removal spell. So this looks like, well, I learned from my mistake last time, but only sort of. I mean, they ended up having Murder for Stone Golem. It wasn't that surprising. We shrunk this by 2, and then I didn't block. So Moo has 1 more loyalty than it would have had if I targeted Skeleton the first time and attacked with the Seer. This time, I'm going to trade the Lich for the Cutthroat, but I'm going to get Moo to 4. it's unlikely you're going to have a second murder in hand, a lot less likely than the first. And now we can start making air elementals. Meteor Golem's also a really nice pickup, because if we draw a land, I can kill that Reclamation, which means they're no longer drawing cards whenever their creatures die. So I'm actually going to do that, even though they just played a 7/7. I'm not really that worried about it. I have this, which has Death Touch, basically my whole deck. I guess there's not much reason to hold that back. If they attack with both, I'll probably just 4/4 flyer on the Skeleton, 3/3 on the Vorse Claw. If they attack with just Vorse Claw, I'll probably go for the double block. So they should attack with both. But the thing is, if I held the Seer back and they attacked with both, what am I going to do? I could put like Seer on Vorse Claw and then just eat the Skeleton or something. Or I mean, I could put the Seer on the Skeleton, double block Vorse Claw and kill it, but that doesn't seem great. Don't want to throw away too many cards to protect Moo at this stage in the game. I've got a handful of business, recurring Meteor Golem. Basically just wanted to make them do work. Okay, and the opponent is doing work. This game is further from over than I would have liked. They just played a 6/6 flying Death Touch too. Let's see how much mana we have this turn. So we can bounce our Meteor Golem here, and then still have 3 to give Death Touch to the Knight to trade with the Vorse Claw. We won't have Bone Gnash up, but they're out of cards, so that seems like a pretty standard play here, I guess. We could maybe just leave 4 up or kind of telegraphing Bone Gnash. I guess the reason to not bounce it would be because then it's protected from like Mind Rot, which again, they'd have to top deck and isn't even a card people always main deck. So I think this is the right play. I'm also not really looking to Bone Gnash, because if I Bone Gnash, then I can't pump this Knight, and I need to pump this Knight to give it Death Touch to trade with their 7/7. Otherwise, I'm just chumping the 7/7, and I can't afford to take 13 here. I'd be at 4. So I'm pretty happy to just get my Meteor Golem online. Okay, well, Bow plus Cutthroat is kind of the same thing, only cheaper. So let's do it that way now. Combos on combos on combos here. This time I will leave Bone Gnash up, because now we don't have the Knight to pump anymore. So it's not like I'm almost guaranteed to spend the 3 mana. Instead, if I pay 1 and portal the Cutthroat or something, all I'm doing is taking away my ability to Bone Gnash, and I'm going to strand the rest of the mana. So this time I think it does make sense to leave Bone Gnash up, even though it didn't work out because they drew Bow this turn. But again, not too concerned. We've got recurring Meteor Golem. So now we could actually bow the Cutthroat, attack and ping the Abomination, then bounce the Cutthroat and replay it. Or we could just Golem and then bounce that potentially and replay it. Either way works. I think it's still a little cheaper to use the bow and the Cutthroat. Will we be able to have Bone Gnash open? We've got 9 mana. 1 to put the bow on, 1 to bounce it. That's 2. 4 to replay it is 6. So no, we'll be a mana short. So I think I'll just go ahead and play Meteor Golem then. Now I have an extra creature in play to attack with, potentially. Might as well equip. But I'm not going to bounce the Golem, partially because I'd prefer it in play, I think, to in my hand. I mean, this opens it up to sorcery speed removal, but not Mind Rot, so there's probably more ways to actually kill it this way. But also, that's not the real reason anyway, even though that was wrong. The real reason is just I want to attack with it. If they didn't top deck a blocker, they'd have 1 Skeleton to block with, and I'd have, well, 2/3/3 attackers. As is, I don't want to let them trade Servant for either of my creatures. I'm just going to go ahead and do the combo again. I think it's a little cheaper this way, and this time I might have Bone Gnash up because the bow already started equipped. The portal, remember, this isn't instant speed. It just can only be used on your turn. So I'm going to be able to use that. And then bounce the Cutthroat before damage. The Undead Servant took its 1 from the bow, so now we can Cutthroat it. And I want to have Bone Gnash up and no reason to telegraph it, so we'll go ahead and play a land. And now we've got our 4 up for Bone Gnash, and we're using our combo. So basically, Cutthroat plus Bow with Portal or Meteor Golem with Portal are a removal spell a turn. So we currently have 2 different ways to take out the opponent's creatures. And now we can take cards from their hand too. Why not? Just a land, okay. So we don't really have anything else to do. So I guess let's portal back Golem and kill Bow. And kill their Bow this time. We could leave Bone Gnash up, but the reality is, if they draw a creature, I can always just kill it with these combos anyway. So I think there's more value in taking out their Bow. It doesn't really matter. I can't imagine losing this no matter what we do from here. So that's a creature we need to kill. If I attack with all 3 and they block the Fenlurker, I can pump it 3 times and trade, deal them 6. That seems less good than just bouncing the Meteor Golem pre-combat. We're getting in 5 this way, and we're not giving them the ability to block and kill anything. Because you can always bounce whatever they block. So you could attack and let them block and then bounce. But ultimately, I think since we weren't able to present lethal, we didn't want to give them the option to block Fenlurker there. I could then sink all my mana into Fenlurker and trade it with the Shaman, but then I'd not have Fenlurker anymore. Instead, I dealt 5 instead of 6, and then I still got to keep my Fenlurker and still kill their Shaman. So that's why we picked up Meteor Golem and just replayed it pre-combat. Okay, so Noxious Grasp is on because they're green. They have a bow, so if we have any weak 1 toughness creatures, we want to cut them. We're not cutting like Vampire or Fenlurker or Seer, though, so we're not going to be cutting that. They did play a 6-mana 5/5 Death Touch and a 5-mana 5/4 Trample, so Bone Gnash seems pretty good against them. Little worse on the draw. Let me just cut like a 4/4. Generic big creatures are not how we're going to beat this deck. That's kind of their game. We're going to try and beat them with flyers and with value and with 1-mana removal spell, Bone Splinters, or our combos with Portal. Basically with value, which is the best way to win. Did we see Tricks? We saw the Growth Cycle. And a Murder that they used on that Stone Golem that game. But we definitely can't board out the Vampires because the opponent's got a lot of big creatures. So hopefully they don't draw Bow. Or if they do, hopefully we don't draw our 1 toughness creatures. It's not like they're searching it out for free like we do. Okay, again, on the draw, we don't have Moo this time, but I'm still not going to mulligan. We just need one swamp, and then we can cycle Bladebrand to find more lands. There's 9 of them in there. This is why I'll always draw first unlimited when you can. The extra card on each of your turns is just so nice. The reason you don't draw very often in Constructed is Constructed decks are built to consistently cast cards every turn and do whatever they're looking to do. Limited decks are sloppier. You just don't have that many of your mana sources, that many 2-drops and 3-drops. So by having an extra card on each of your turns, you're just able to do more. So if I knew we were going to draw Lich, I would have just held the skeleton so that I could discard it to the Lich. Now what I'm going to do is Portal. This way next turn I can pay 1 and bounce the skeleton in my hand, and then I can pay 3 and play the Lich, draw and discard skeleton. Got to get that value. So we'll start by attacking, not really scared. In fact, if they do have the Ambusher, the 4-mana 4/4 Flash Wolf, I hope they play it so that they block and then I can Bladebrand. But that didn't happen. Now we'll bounce that skeleton, put out our Lich, generate a little value, draw a card, discard a skeleton that we'll be able to buy back later. It may seem like a lot of work to go up 1 card, searching out Bow and then discarding it to Lich, bouncing the skeleton to discard to Lich, but remember, these cards are good anyway. They're fine on their own. So when you piece them together and get value, that's kind of just gravy. Speaking of, we can soul salvage back Lich and Skeleton. Necromancer is a much better play this turn, but then we're going to have to exile our Lich. So we have a choice here. Do we want to buy back our creatures? We're a mana short of replaying the Lich this turn. Or do we want to do other things? I think we probably want to play Necromancer. I mean, we could play Skeleton, I guess, and then sack it to Blood for Bones, put the Lich in play and Skeleton in hand, and then discard it. Actually, that makes the most sense. That lets us use all our mana, cast the more expensive cards, and get our Lich in play instead of in our hand. So we sack the Skeleton. Now we can put the Lich in play, the Skeleton in our hand. Then we get the Lich's draw 1, discard 1, and we can discard the second Skeleton. That was actually, I can't believe I almost missed that. That was like a perfect turn. Used all our mana, got our Lich back in play, our Skeletons in the yard. Basically everything you could want. Okay, so I'm going to offer this trade. Even though I don't love it, I need them to put a creature in their graveyard so I can Necromancer them. You can Necromancer either player, but I don't really want to Necromancer myself, given I have Soul Salvage. And if they have removal, we've got the Soul Salvage to get back the Necromancer itself. And if they don't, we have the Portal. So basically, we now have a 2/2 making machine. As you can see, we get value a lot of different ways, and that's just really good in this format. This format is about value. So I'm going to start by attacking. I'll Bladebrand the 2/2 if they block it. They may have something, but I'm not really scared of the blowout. If they want to murder a 2/2, they can. Not something I'm concerned about here. Now we can have another perfect turn. Use our mana, Fenlurker them, then put out Weaponsmith. I don't think there's really like a sweeper. I can't imagine they're going to win this game. And now we can use our better Portal combo than making a 2/2 for 5 mana. We can bounce Fenlurker, replay it, and they have to exile another card. Granted, they're probably just holding like a pump spell or a removal spell and lands. If they had good creatures, they'd be in play. They have enough mana. But there hasn't really been great targets for removal at all times. And they've never had the opportunity to use like a Growth Cycle or a Bladebrand profitably. So there's the murder. Not surprised to see that. Like I said, they haven't really had the opportunity to use removal profitably yet, so it made sense for them to be holding it. for now. 1 to bounce, 2 to replay the Fenlurker. That's 3. That leaves us 3 other mana to work with. So we could search out Bow and play it. That looks good. We can't equip it, but we don't need to. So let's start this turn by attacking. Even though we're probably just getting lands from their hand, I think it's still worth doing. They may also be holding a combat trick or something like that. And then we'll Weaponsmith up our Bow and play it, since that uses the rest of our mana. And back to you. So nothing else to do with Weaponsmith here as far as artifacts. There's no reason really to equip Bow right now. So let's start by attacking. Then I think I'm just going to Soul Salvage back the good stuff, Lich and Necromancer. I guess we could play Lich, but we don't have mana to buy back Skeleton and do that. I think it might actually just be better to portal the Fenlurker here. Again, they're probably just going to discard a land that they drew this turn, but the last card in their hand could easily be a Blade Brand or a Growth Cycle or Soul Salvage or something. So taxing their hand is nice. I should have equipped Bow there with the 1 extra mana. I just forgot to do that. So again, pretty sure we're not going to be pumping unless we're threatening lethal because we have better things to do with our mana. So let's just attack. And then portal the Fenlurker. Just keep taking the cards from their hand. Don't mind if I do. Looks like the opponent's super flooded. And Necromancer. See, in their last card, it turns out was a Rabid Bite they were holding. So that's why I was taxing their hand every turn with this Fenlurker. We didn't get them down to 0 cards in hand, but we could have. It just happened to not go that way. Okay, 3, 4, 6, 8. We have lethal. Just take out their creature. Even though they kept discarding lands every turn because they kept drawing them, it made sense for them to be holding a removal or a pump spell, like that murder that they ended up using, and then the Rabid Bite. So I did want to tax their hand if I could, I think. Had they drawn a creature that was 1 more mana, for example, then they wouldn't have been able to play the Rabid Bite, and I would have gotten it out of their hand with the Fenlurker. And just choking the opponent at 7 lands is not nothing. Like I said, we're going to draw first when we get choice. Now, here's a hand I am going to mulligan. Despite having both kinds of mana, we don't even have a Vial, so we already have the card we can search out. This is just a really underpowered hand. I'm going to go ahead and cash it in. Now we have a much better hand. We have a turn 3 Stone Golem. The only thing I'm not sure about is which of these to put back. This would be a near perfect 7, but I need them all. We're on the draw, but I don't really want to put back a land. That would be pretty greedy. I guess Blood for Bones has got to go. It's a really powerful card, though. Feels very strange sending that back. If I had that Cutthroat 1 card earlier, I would have sent that back instead of the Blood for Bones. But we can't send any of the 3 lands back. That would be too greedy. This is a hand that uses its lands well. If it draws a bunch more lands, we can loot them away with Lich, at least one of them. Okay, well, I was going to turn 3 4/4, but the only thing better than that is turn 3 Moo. This may even get the concession. I'm actually not going to attack with the Weaponsmith because there's a 3-mana 2/2 Haste Goblin. So I want to have the Weaponsmith back in case they're holding that. It's a common. Next turn, we'll just make 2 4/4s. or the opponent will just concede. I don't blame them. They're having mana problems, and we have turn 3 Moo. So all we saw was they were red, so Noxious Grasp can't come in. Knowing we're going to be on the draw versus a red deck, we do kind of want to take out Cutthroat. Not that I have much to bring in, but I'll go with something cheaper in case they are aggressive. Well, the story of this draft is going to be turn 3 Moo. We're doing it a lot. This game, we're going to get to play both our rares. Although we can't curve all the way out. If we wanted to play our 2-drop turn 2, we wouldn't also be able to play our 3-drop turn 3. It's a lot more valuable that we get this Moo in play next turn than it is the Fenlurker this turn. So Skeleton will have to do. And I'm sorry, opponent. I really don't like to win like this. I'll take it. It's part of Magic, not the good part. If it was up to me, we would ban all these Mythics from Limited and just play with the commons. So they're doing that because the Thief's still going to attack and draw a card. Now I don't have 2 power to put in front of it. So they do get to attack and draw a card. Of course, value is great. Not as great as Air Elementals coming into play on turn 4. So the opponent's play is definitely right. But I like my situation a little better. But for now, the scariest thing in the world is an Audacious Thief continuing to attack. So I'm going to go ahead and put out multiple blockers. And there's no way I'm going to attack them for one skeleton. Who knows how many creatures they can or can't kill. I don't want Moo getting wiped off the board unnecessarily, so all 3 creatures definitely staying back. So that makes it a 3-3. Like if it dies, it comes back as a 3-3 with a counter on it. It's nice. It's another way for the opponent to continue to get cards. But we have a 4/4 flyer, so we can definitely just block it. And let's take a card out of their hand. Now, if I attack with the 4/4 flyer and I shrink the Thief, it becomes a 1/3. So we can kill it with Fenlurker and Skeleton. But we also do want to block Skeleton. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense to attack with the 4/4 flyer here. I want to. It's not like a 1-power creature. It's really conservative to be holding back 4/4s. But the reason I'm doing it is more to prevent Thief from being able to attack profitably than it is to protect Moo. I don't want them to keep drawing extra cards. Soon we'll have another 4/4 flyer. So for now, I think we're going to chill. If the opponent wants to get cards off Thief, then I want to make sure I eat that Thief. Like if they attacked with Thief right now, I would block with Fenlurker, Skeleton, and the 4/4 flyer. And then even if they have removal or pump or something, I'm still going to get it off the board, and they're no longer going to be able to tap to draw cards. And then we'll just keep using Moo. So instead, they're just going to play a 4/4. I'm not going to remove Moo for them. This game looks fine right now. Just go ahead and shrink Thief and pass back to them. The reason I chose Thief, Audacious Thief, and not Vengeful Warchief is because I'm going to put the Vampire in front of the Warchief if they were to do some kind of massive attack, and I'd rather be able to eat Audacious Thief. If they attack with just Warchief, I probably won't do that, even though it's a great trade, because I could just put Fenlurker and Skeleton in front of it and get to spend my mana that way. So if they attack with all 3, and they don't do anything before blockers, we need what? The 1/1 there, 1/2 there, and then if we put like both of these here, we ensure the kill. I like that a lot. This way, the Moo doesn't take any damage. If they have removal, they can't keep the Thief around to draw more cards. I don't really care if they keep the War Chief around because I have Skeleton to keep blocking it. So this means basically all they can do with removal is use it on like Vampire, and then we keep our 4/4 flyer, and we get the Thief off the board. And both of these creatures are big enough to kill Thief. So they're shocking the Vampire so that it won't eat their War Chief. Makes sense, but it's also perfectly fine. Card drawing machine, Audacious Thief off the board. This is just a generic big creature, not something I'm super scared of. So now I think another 4/4 flyer. The only question is, can we attack with one? I think the answer is yes. Do we also send Fenlurker, or is that a good backup chump blocker? Let's say they have removal for this 4/4. We have Skeleton. If they want to remove that, we have Thief. We have tons of backup. So yeah. Plenty of protection. Now's a good time to get aggro. I think we'll see a concession unless they have some really good stuff to play. Like, even if they have, like, removal here, like Outrage or Murder, all they can do is take out the 4/4 flyer, and then it's still Skeleton on War Chief, Thief on Skeleton. Like, I'm not even blocking with the 4/4 flyer, because there's no reason to right now. Which is why I attacked with the Fenlurker also. Because even if they had removal for our best creature, we still had 2 backup blockers. Okay, so I'm going to start by trying to 11 them. I don't necessarily think they have anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and lethal them. If they had something, I could still use Moo here on Skeleton, and then I could use Bone Splinters to take out the War Chief if I had to. Of course, if they had something, they would have probably played it on their turn. That's why I knew they didn't have anything. They needed to clear my blockers so they could pressure Moo, not save it to kill my creatures on their turn, on my turn when I attack them. So that's pretty much how we knew they weren't holding anything at that point. Deck's been performing really well so far. I'm not super surprised. The grindier your deck, the better in this format. Grind, grind, grind. This is awesome. This limited format's all about creating value. We want to lead Swamp turn 1 where we can because we have that double black 2-drop Fenlurker. So what I'm going to do now is hold the Sprite back to block the Miscreant, because they may have like Fathom Fleet Cutthroat or something, in which case they want to attack with Miscreant, ping the Thief, and then Cutthroat it. I don't care about Sprite for Miscreant. It's a small trade down, but it's well worth it. I want to make sure that they're not able to get like a free kill on this Thief. Like now, if they attack and ping the Sprite, I'll just block the Sprite on the Miscreant. It's about an even trade. If they ping the Thief, I'm going to still block the Sprite and the Miscreant. So either way, they basically can't get any sort of free kill on the Thief. And as I like to call it, Audacious Thief, card drawing machine. If it gets to keep attacking, you pretty much just win. And we knew holding Bladebrand, we'd be able to attack even if they had a 3 toughness creature. And even that wasn't super likely. There aren't a ton of them for 4 mana or less. So speaking of machines, though, this card lets you pay 4 and deal damage and destroy anything that was dealt damage. This card deals damage. So the opponent now has their own little value machine. Couldn't do anything about it this turn except hope they didn't have land 5, which it looks like they didn't. They have a tap land this turn. But I need to break this up or they're going to be killing my creatures for free. Got Meteor Golem, but we're still several turns away from that. And Moo won't even shut it down. They won't be able to kill Moo very easily, so I can still happily put it in play. But even if this creature had 0 power, they can bow it, ping something, and then pay 4 and kill it. So the opponent's got combos too. I guess I'm not the only one who gets to have synergy in combos. So for now, though, I really want to have multiple creatures back. This way I can potentially block Siegebreaker. So I'm just going to attack with Thief. Get my card. I might be missing an attack here if they end up blocking. But if I get that Thief off the board, I'm pretty happy as is. So I didn't find lands, so I'm going to go ahead and put out Seer, because that gives me another shot to find a land, which is what I really need. Still no land, though. So this isn't great. I'm not worried about them pinging the Seer, let's say, because if they're doing that, then they're not using the Siegebreaker plus bow combo to take out Cutthroat. But I was really hoping to find a land there. Develop my board and get closer towards Meteor Golem. See, the opponent knows what's up. They're pinging Audacious Thief over the Seer that's going to trade with the Miscreant when they could have killed the Seer without spending any mana, and now they're going to pay 4 with Siegebreaker and take out Thief. You just can't let your opponent attack and draw cards turn after turn. Audacious Thief is a machine. This is a walking Jameday Tome. Just draws an extra card every turn for no mana. Card is so good. What's not so good is still not drawing lands. Need it to happen sooner or later. If I had drawn a land, I could at least have put out like Stone Golem, and then they could ping one of my 2 creatures, use the Siegebreaker's ability, but then the other one could still block it. I'm not worried about getting 2 for 1, not with this hand, but I don't have that option now. So I actually can't do very much. I could put out the Sanctuary and bounce the Cutthroat after I attack with it. They're not going to block. Or I could put out the bow, or I could cast Salvage just to get some cards, some creatures in my hand. None of this is very appealing. I think what I'm going to do is just start by cycling Blade Brand. I just really need to find lands very badly. This gives me the highest chance to find a land to make this turn. Okay, so I found a land. It wasn't the land I really wanted, but I'll take it. And then I guess just get our portal in play. If they don't kill the Cutthroat, then we have the ability to buy it back. If they do, we can always make multiple creatures, start portaling. I mean, they're going to get up cards here with this combo, but they're not going to get like further ahead on board necessarily. It's 5 mana to kill something. And then we have a lot to do, including Soul Salvage to buy things back. And we're now 2 lands away from Meteor Golem. So what we're trying to do is get up to 7, Meteor Golem that Siegebreaker, and then we can take over this game. For now, what we don't want to do is just slap down Stone Golem, because they'll just kill it. So Necromancer at least will leave us with an extra 2/2 in play. And if they don't kill it with their combo, then we can always gate it with the Sanctuary and replay it if we want to. Actually, I guess they kind of have to, because if they didn't, we would just block here with it, which they're letting me do for some reason. I don't know if they have something or not, but I'm down to find out. They could have already just paid 4 and killed it. Yeah, see, that was a mistake. They probably have something they want to cast, so they were hoping I wouldn't block, but knowing they could have already paid 4 and killed it, I'm going to block. Okay, so we can definitely put out the Knight. It doesn't have 1 toughness, so if they want to kill it, that's fine. We can put out the Vampire. So now they can't even really attack if we do both of those, because they have to ping this Vampire, or it can block the Siegebreaker. But now we have the 2/2 and the Knight that can block the Siegebreaker together. So then I think I'll even be greedy here and tap out. Go get Cutthroat and Necromancer back. Because now I can pass a turn, and if the opponent does not have something, then they can't even attack. If they attack here and ping the Vampire, I'm double blocking the Siegebreaker. If I get that Siegebreaker off the board, I'm super happy. Of course, they did have something, so now they can attack. And now the 2/2 isn't stopping the Siegebreaker, so they're actually able to cast something if they want to. So that went pretty poorly for me. So while I'm a little bit short now of bow-equipped Cutthroat, I could just play Necromancer and gate it and have 2/2/2s. Then if they want to attack, they have to kill one of them before blockers. What I don't like is that the opponent finally got a window to do something and they left all their mana up. I feel like there's a good chance they have a counter, and Bone Dash is the most likely. I think what I'll do is just cast Moo, because there's a much better chance it will resolve, because if they're holding Bone Dash, they can't counter it. While it doesn't completely stop them, and it doesn't shut off their combo, it does take the Siegebreaker down to a 2/3. Which means it's now not big enough to kill Moo. The ability only destroys creatures. And this plays around Bone Dash. The Moo should stay in play unless they have some way to finish it off, and then I can use it again to shrink their Siegebreaker next turn, and I can do more things potentially. So I got the bow in play too, which is pretty valuable because I have the Cutthroat in hand. If they want to attack, ping my zombie, and finish off a Siegebreaker, they can, but then their mana will be tapped. And then if I draw a land, I can just slam this Meteor Golem. Moo isn't dying. So all in all, I can flip this board back. What I didn't want to happen was play something good and then have them Bone Dash it, because then this Moo wouldn't even be in play. What I just did was try and move the board back in my favor. And as you can see, they left Bone Dash mana up again. I feel like it's pretty likely that they have it. So for now, I just want to play whichever creature I want Bone Dashed if they have it, which would be Stone Golem, I think. Which this is certainly good enough. I would be very surprised if they don't counter this. And now with Skeleton, I have enough power to put on the Siegebreaker. So they can't really attack unless they want to spend their mana. Except for they have second bow. So if they double bow it, then they could just double ping a 2/2. So they could still attack. So I'm not going to miss 2 damage in a tight game. But, I mean, now the Bone Dash is out of their hand. So if I get to untap with either of these, I can bow it, attack with it, ping the breaker, and then Cutthroat it. Assuming they don't have another Bone Dash. So we'll see what they do here. Kind of weird killing that and not the token, unless they're going to bounce the token or something like that. Especially since it's already got the bow on it. Okay, well that's why. So they're going to exile the skeleton. But shields are down, so now I can put an end to this party. So if I draw a land, I'm just going to slap down Meteor Golem because I don't want to have to throw away the 2/2. If I don't draw a land, if I want to attack and ping the Siegebreaker and Cutthroat it, which I do want to do pretty badly, I do have to throw away the 2/2 zombie, assuming they'll block it with the Necromancer. But it's worth it. I've got to end the Siegebreaker madness. So they know I have Cutthroat in hand, so that's the reason I'm making this attack. So they should block with Necromancer. It would be a bad play not to. Now let's make sure the auto tapper's not getting us. Looks good. Cutthroat is actually going to want to block like Necromancer. So I think we move the zombie here. Because they have 2 bows, so they could like ping out Fenlurker and put 1 damage on Cutthroat. So I would rather Cutthroat trade with Necromancer than trade with the 2/2 zombie token. Not that it's a big deal either way. So depending on what their last card is, we're still actually in pretty good shape here. Moo's hanging around in play. Plus we have an engine, Boneclad with Portal, also Meteor Golem with Portal. And unless they have another recursion spell or a recursion spell, they haven't played any, I don't know why I said another, then they don't have an engine. They've got double bow, but we can beat that. Well, they do have a recursion spell. It's not an engine in the sense that it's not like it's gonna keep recurring things, but they can get back. They're two good creatures here, Siegebreaker and Necromancer. So the party continues for now. This is M20 limited for you. It's just a constant party. So we've got tricks too. The only way we can use Blood for Bones this turn is if we use Moo to make a 4/4 flyer and then sack it. We could get back okay stuff. Nothing even as good as a 4/4 flyer, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. If they want to be able to hit Moo, let's see. They can they have 3 attackers. We can have 3 blockers with a 4/4 flyer and Necromancer in a token that it makes. They could double ping out a 2/2, but then we're going to eat their board pretty good with a 3/3 eating a 2/2 and a 4/4 eating a 3/3. They can put some damage on our creatures, making our blocks worse, but then they're not eating anything for free. So I think that's the right play this turn. Get rid of their skeleton too while we can. Not that I'm that concerned about that this game. And then go ahead and put out a 4/4 flyer. They have to top deck Mountain, and I'm guessing red is their splash. Otherwise, they can't be using Siegebreaker and Heartpiercer tricks this turn. They have to first cast the Siegebreaker, which costs a red, and then it's also a red to activate it. So I don't think this is going to go poorly for me. If they don't ping my bigger creatures, my blocks will be really good. If they do ping my bigger creatures, then it'll be mostly trades, but then Moo will stick around. So I think this should work out pretty well for me no matter what. Let's see what they're going to bow. I'm really not sure. Okay, they double pinged the 4/4 flyer, which means 3/3 can block 2/2. 4/4 flyer can block Necromancer, or 4/2 flyer now, and 2/2 can block 2/2. And of course I do want Moo, so if I just want to make these trades, the 3/3 got to eat a 2/2. They double pinged the 4/4, so it didn't have anything to block and live, so I went ahead and traded it off with their biggest creature, and then traded 2/2s with them. Now if I draw a land, we win the game. I get to just slam Meteor Golem. If not, we'll have to see what we draw. What an epic, hard-fought game. But now we get to Meteor Golem away that. And this should be game over. So I might actually board out the Vamps against them because they have little flyers and a grindy deck. And while just because I saw a bow out of a black-green deck, I wasn't going to board out these vampires because they're so good against big green creatures. They actually seem kind of ineffective against the opponent's grindy plan. So I might want to take them out against double bow. You can always leave in Seer since it cycles for 3, and I just don't have that many good cards to bring in anyway. I think a Convolute looks alright against them, and the second Cutthroat. It's going to be interesting to see whether they play or draw. I would draw, but most people seem to choose play almost all the time. So even though we have the bow and the weaponsmith, we can't mold this 7 because, well, it's just both kinds of mana, 2-drop, 3-drop, etc. I didn't play the Swamp because we can't draw Fenlurker and Swamp in one card. What we can do is play turn 3 Audacious Thief and Heartpiercer Bow, because we can use Weaponsmith for mana. Weaponsmith, or as I like to call it, Soul Ring and Demonic Tutor in one card. So now we have a choice. It's either put out Bow and Thief, or play Bow, equip, attack, and eat a Miscreant for free. As much as I like to eat things for free, I want to get my card drawing engine online. It's not like they're likely to be able to remove Bow, so that Miscreant's pretty much as good as dead anyway. If they have a second Miscreant, they're going to get a card, whereas if I removed it, they wouldn't. But I've got a Thief. I want to get it in play so it can start attacking. So now I have the interesting choice. I could ping away the Miscreant for free, but if I do that, they can block the Thief with the Sprite and then pump it. What I'm going to do is ping the Sprite, because then they can't pump it or it'll die, so they can't kill the Thief. Again, I'm all about the card drawing machine. And I've got my counter mana open, so if they have removal, I have Convolute. If they don't and they go to play a good creature, I have Bone Dash. So I'm going to try and use this Thief here. If I can just draw extra cards every turn, I'm going to win the game. So what they did was hold back Sprite, planning to pump it and turn it into a 2-1 so it could trade with Thief, thinking I would ping off their 1-1 flyer. What I did instead was just ping the Sprite, so they couldn't pump it. Now they realized that's not going to work, so they left both back this time. Now if I ping the 1-1 Miscreant, they'll trade the Sprite for the Thief. So I know I don't have that option again this turn. They needed to leave both back the previous turn. They made a little mistake attacking with the Miscreant, but they just assumed I was going to attack and ping the Miscreant. But I'm more interested in drawing extra cards than I am killing 1-1 flyers. Especially 1-1 flyers that are already as good as dead, because at some point it's going to die to this bow. Okay, so what I don't want to do is cast creatures here into their Bone Dash. So it's getting a little more interesting. I think what I have to do this turn is just move the bow over to the Weaponsmith. I can then attack with that, ping off the Miscreant, so that I don't open the door for them to kill Thief here with a double block. Because if I attack with Thief and ping the Miscreant, they would block with the Sprite and pump. If I ping the Sprite like I did last turn, they would double block and then kill the Thief. So now what happens is we get the Miscreant off the board. Sure, I don't get to have Bone Dash up, but I've got Convolute anyway in case they do something really good this turn. And if not, on my next turn, I can now attack, ping the Sprite, and the Thief can attack again. Because now that the Miscreant's off the board, I can put a damage on the Sprite. So we keep playing around Bone Dash, keeping our Thief alive, and just really trying to gain card advantage. Trying to get in a position where Thief can attack. Because now Thief can attack. So now we can counter that. We're going to get to go ahead and attack with both our creatures, draw extra cards. And then we've got Bone Dash up if we want it. We could just play things if we want to, because then we can always Bone Splinter's a creature they play. Basically, we're in a position now where we're attacking, we're drawing extra cards, we're in control. And I'm just going to go ahead and Cutthroat away the Sprite, even though it's not a great target. I'm getting further ahead on board, and if they play something good, I can always Bone Splinters it, or ping Cutthroat it, and then I can leave Bone Dash up later. So, there's the something good. Let's go ahead and Bone Splinters it. Definitely sacking Weaponsmith. Nothing else to search for. Drawing extras. This feels like cheating, but it's not. It's legal. Shouldn't be legal to cast a 3-mana 2/2 that taps to draw a card, but it is. And I didn't play anything else because now I'm just going to leave Bone Dash up. They clearly didn't have removal before. Assuming they just have creatures and not removal, then we'll Bone Dash it. Assuming they have removal, then I'll regret the play a little bit, but not a big deal. Didn't have any great creatures to play. I could have put a Cutthroat out or a Sprite out. Okay, they went and tutored up this figure. I can't do anything about that. What I can do is Fenlurker them and leave Bone Gnash up again. We're up pretty good on board. There's the Bone Gnash that they left up that one turn or two. So I'm pretty happy to be able to sit behind my Bone Gnash for now. Plus, I draw a card off it. I draw a card for my turn. One land away from Meteor Golem. They definitely weren't holding removal. They cast Drawn from Dreams. They went and found that Disfigure, plus whatever else they went and got. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to counter that. I would Bone Gnash any decent-sized creature, but with a Heart Piercer bow in play, there's no way I'm going to Bone Gnash a 1 toughness creature. 2 toughness flyer? Okay, good enough. I was going to Bone Gnash pretty much anything, just not something that's already dead to my Heart Piercer bow. So now we can bow up whatever, doesn't really matter. We should, looks like, put out Sprite and Skeleton. Because every point of damage now matters. We're getting them very low. That lets us still pump Fenlurker once, use all our mana, put them all the way to 2. And back to you, opponent. Sweet. Off to a quick 4-0. I'm not even sure if I've dropped a game. This deck is awesome. Let's see if we can actually get 5 wins. I failed last week. Last week I started off 4-0, and I started talking about the 5-0, and then I lost back-to-back matches and finished 4-2. But this deck's even better than I had last week, and I'm feeling really good. So this time I think we'll actually get it. All right, 5 lands isn't the best, but we can already loot away 1 with Lich, so this is a pretty clear keep. Lich lets you really smooth your draws. If you need lands, you can get rid of expensive spells. If you need spells, you can get rid of lands. There's that turn 2 Season of Growth. Tough to beat. Turn 3 Moo is better, though. Uh-oh. They didn't even play anything. This could be another quick game. This card is so stupid. People always ask me what's my ban list for Limited, because I always talk about how I'd like to ban some cards from each set from Limited. Moo is definitely on it. I can tell you this much. 6 mana Chandra and Moo are 2 planeswalkers that are banned from Limited. For now, let's go ahead and shrink that flyer. I don't want to make an air elemental because if they kill it, I can't stop Bloodthirsty Aerialist from taking Moo out. So here I think the right play, shrink the Aerialist, because it's not like I'm scared of pump or something. Moo also makes the creature lose flying. This might be a game where instead of air elementals, I just go fire off an emblem. We'll see what they do this turn. But I didn't want to make a 4/4 flyer there, because then, for example, they would have murdered the air elemental, the 4/4 flyer, and then Bloodthirsty Aerialist would have just attacked and killed Moo. So that's why I didn't do that. Now, if I make a 4/4 flyer, even if they killed it, Bloodthirsty Aerialist would only take Moo down to 6. That said, there's almost nothing that's going to directly target a Planeswalker. I think I just want to plus it here and then get to the emblem. If I can tap an island to draw a card, I can't lose the game. If it's a game like this, and I still have plenty of life. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and plus Moo again, take the Aerialist down. Then I guess Skeleton can block it, and it has no power anyway, but if they have Pump or can grow it, then I've got Skeleton to block it. So I should probably just be attacking with the Knight. Should have done that before playing the Skeleton, but whatever. And then Pump, because this means they'll lose 4, and the Knight will grow. So I've got Skeleton to block Bloodthirsty Aerialist in case they have Pump. Moo's not going anywhere anyway. So if they can beat me tapping an island for the rest of the game to draw a card whenever I want, then they've earned it. So this emblem is actually a really scary ability too. Pretty happy instead of just beating people with air elementals like I usually do, I got to fire off the emblem here. Start drawing extra cards. Alright, didn't find any land, so I'll chill for now. I'm not too worried about it. This looks a little scary at the moment, but we still have tons of life. Don't really want to take hits from that Vorse Claw, but other than that, I should find answers. Alright, so we need 2 for bow, 1 to equip, and 4 for cutthroat, so we're 1 short. So this turn, if we block and blade brand, we won't have any other creatures out though. So I don't know if that's great. We can just chump with Skeleton. I think we just want to play Necromancer here. Might have to remove one of my own creatures, but that seems fine. I guess we could also Soul Salvage the Lich and the Ebon Legion. That's pretty good. And then we can just play them both. That's a really good turn. And then that helps us also... well, we can't play them both, but... Actually, well, then I can't use the islands to draw cards. And what I really want to do is find land. So I actually think that's wrong. I think I was right the first time. Just going to go ahead and play Necromancer. This gives me a bunch of bodies to potentially deal with the big ground creature. And then I can still draw an extra card here. And I'm only 1 land away from being able to take the flyer out, which is my big concern. Bow, equip, cutthroat. I'm not that worried about the Vorse Claw. I can take that out any which way on the ground at any point. What I can't do is take a hit from 7. Take a hit for 7 from it. So we'll chump it. So I love my side of the board here, but the opponent's definitely not going away without a fight. They're getting scry value. I'm tapping to draw a card. Alright, so now it looks like it's time to do this. So even though it's tempting to Blade Brand, it's just not worth it. I need to make sure I get rid of their flyer. I can catch up on the ground later. Mammoth Spider doesn't scare me. Just go ahead and chump, because I really don't want to take it for 7. Trade 3/3s. Like I said, I can catch up on the ground pretty easily. That's not really a big concern. And we're going to do that now. Just go ahead and cast some stuff. can bring the Lich in play because it can block the Vorse Claw, and I guess the Necromancer back to my hand. We even net a loot here. I don't really want to discard any of this. It's all good, but I guess the Weaponsmith, I'm probably not going to play it. I'll just go ahead and draw cards, find a swamp to play the Vampire if I can. If I whiff out, then I lose to removal, so that would be unfortunate. But it's a risk I'm prepared to take, given on board I'm good, and if I just find a swamp in the 2 cards that I'm tapping the islands to draw, then I have a second blocker. And that's a backup blocker, in case they top deck the removal spell. Remember, Moo's quietly winning this game. I've drawn, what, 5, 6, 7 extra cards already? That's a lot of extra cards. Okay, now we can use the combo again. Oh, wait, I don't have Cutthroat. What am I saying? Now we can add to our board. Let's say we play 7 mana here. That means we can at least draw 1 card, so let's start there. Okay, now we can draw 1 more card. And then we'll just Fenlurker, their last card, which is probably a land, but maybe not. Could be a pump spell or something. And I think Necromancer is offering us more value than Stone Golem. And back to you. Now all we really have to do is make sure we don't deck, to be honest. We can just draw so many extra cards whenever we want. We should be able to kill the opponent. We can Soul Salvage back Fathom Fleet. So, Heart Piercer now on the biggest one, I guess, so that they either have to block it or take more damage. And I'm not really worried about defense anymore, so I'm going to send this Vampire too. I guess I'll ping the 7/7. If they block with that, I'll just use Blade Brand, and then I can save Heart Piercer Cutthroat for later. Soul Salvage to get back Cutthroat. So yeah, let's go ahead and Blade Brand, because they did block. And then 12 cards left, plenty of time. I guess for now, I'll just draw a card and play Stone Golem. Nice job by the opponent. I thought I was just going to run away with this game, but it's actually been pretty good. Okay, so I didn't actually want to attack with this anyway, because I don't really want to draw a card and have to discard a card. I mean, heck, I can just tap and draw a card anytime I want. And then I'm sure they have something, but I really don't care. I can just buy it back. So go ahead and block like that. They probably have a pump spell, which they're probably going to use on Courser. I would have double blocked or something to try and play around more, except I'm just going to take the Courser out now anyway, with the bow and the Fathom Fleet Cutthroat that I'm going to Soul Salvage. So, really just not too concerned. Let's make sure I have enough mana. If I Portal and play Fenlurker, that's 4, 6 mana. And then 3 and 4 means I would need 13 to do it all. I don't have that much. So, Soul Salvage Cutthroat and my best creature, Necromancer. And then Cutthroat away this 5/5. And I think we'll just play Portal. I'm not going to buy back Cutthroat. I'm not really that worried about it. Depending on what they drew, we might get the... there it is, the concession. Okay, so we saw plenty of nice green creatures, I think. So Noxious Grasp is coming in. We're going to be on the draw, so we probably don't want too much Cutthroat business. But against decent-sized green creatures, I might want to keep the one in. It's not like they're a red aggro deck or something. Stone Golem can probably leave. This format is awesome. Value, 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 grind, grind, grind. As you can see, this deck is really good at not getting run over and really good at grinding and creating value. I know I've done quite a bit of winning with Moo. That game, they after I used Moo just for the emblem and not 4/4s, they were able to take the board a little bit, but ultimately I drew like so many extra cards with Moo that basically I still just won that game with it. But a lot of these games I have won primarily through grinding and trading and recurring things and stuff like that. The Audacious Thief game against the opponent last round was pretty sweet. Okay, so now if we attack, they pretty much know we have Blade Brand, but I don't really care. I have Thief to play, so I'm going to attack with both because if they block, I get to eat their 3/3 with Blade Brand. If they don't block, I play Thief, and then if they attack back, that's a creature that's no longer back on defense to block Thief. Blade Brand with Skeleton is just super sweet. Skeleton with everything is just super sweet, frankly. Skeleton's a card that doesn't look great because it doesn't really do a ton on its own, but the thing is, it just combos with everything. Combos with Lich, it combos with Bone Splinter, it combos with Blade Brand, it combos with literally everything. Okay, here, I'm going to go ahead and be mana efficient. I should have played the Fenlicker first, but I'm going to play the 2 creatures over the Thief. The reason for that is because I can use the Weaponsmith to play Portal, because Portal is an artifact, and then I can use Portal to bounce Fenlurker and replay it. So I'm going to start attacking the opponent's hand, and it's to play Portal and use it and replay Fenlurker costs 6, which is conveniently how much I have. I would consider double blocking here if I didn't have that combo, but I do. So we'll just go ahead and attack the opponent's hand for extra resources. Vampire can jump in front of Silverback Shaman, and I'll just ignore Blood Burglar for now. Even though it has Trample, I've got plenty of life, and Death Touch will still kill it. Well, opponent's got cards too. I guess that's what happens when you're 4-0 in round 5. Here's Vivian, another rare mythic planeswalker that could be banned from Limited. This card is incredible. I think I can beat it from this position, but this card is fantastic. They shut off the Fenlurker combo because they kind of had to. However, I don't like this attack. Now they only have 1 creature back. It makes it so much easier for me to kill Vivian. I was going to be able to kill it anyway, but they definitely did just make my life considerably easier. So now, let's go ahead and pounce. Skeleton. Gonna go ahead and play it, and Splinters the Shaman. This way I can attack Vivian with Vampire, and then use the Weaponsmith to search out my bow. And I don't even have to attack with the Weaponsmith or anything like that. We're through their Vivian. And we've still got our Portal. Even though they took care of the Fenlurker, I know that I've got plenty more it works with. So for now, 7 mana. Looks like buy back Skeleton, replay it, and play Thief. And Thief Portal is yet another combo. I don't think I ever did this before, but the Thief doesn't have to connect. It draws a card when it attacks. And Portal is not only when you can play a sorcery. It's any time on your turn. So that means I can attack with Thief, draw a card, and then bounce it with Portal before they can kill it in combat. So somehow, even more combos. For now, I'm happy enough to trade Vampire for their 4/4. I assume they have bigger things, and that's why they're doing it. But I'm not really concerned since I have Skeleton anyway. So if I bow and ping this 2/2 here, it can't really block any of the 1-power creatures, but I might use my mana on the cards I draw. So for now, I think I'm just going to attack with Thief, because I'm going to replay the Thief already if they block that. So now we'll use that combo I was just telling you about. I guess the opponent doesn't realize I'm bouncing it. I wasn't going to let the wolf trade for my card drawing machine here. Conveniently, even have Bone Dash up. I'm going to go ahead and tap the Weaponsmith and play the bow. This telegraphs Bone Dash, but I don't really care. We're at a stage in the game where if they don't want to add to the board, cool. If they attack, I'll chump block with Skeleton. If they play something, I'll Bone Dash it. If they don't, I'll buy Skeleton back in a turn. I'm not taking damage. And then every time Thief attacks, I'm drawing an extra card. So they're pretty squeezed here. Okay, well that changes things. Now I can just bow, equip, and cutthroat. I have 8 mana, 2 for bow, 1 to equip, 1 to portal the thief when they block it potentially, and then 4 to play cutthroat. Sounds perfect to me. I don't have to replay the thief this turn. Although actually I can do it a little bit cheaper, I think. I can use the Weaponsmith. I could also use it to portal, but not if I portal in combat, and I'd be passing up a card if I portaled now. I also wouldn't be pinging, so that wouldn't make any sense. The plan here, ping the 4/4, draw my card with Thief. Now, of course, there's no reason to let their bigger wolf eat my Thief. We'll portal it. But then I'd rather cutthroat away this 4/4 than play Thief. Although I guess I'll probably just do both. It's not like I'm scared of them playing a creature now and me not Bone Dashing it, because I'll just kill it with my bow and cutthroat combo. And we've completely taken over this game now. I really can't imagine how the opponent can win. Drawing extra cards every turn with Thief. Well, now that's over, but killing things with bow, cutthroat. Ooh, I guess it's not over. If I were them, I might actually just concede now. They're still at 34, so they'll probably take another draw step or two. But now we can attack their hand with Fenlurker and draw extra cards. And they did concede. So we got the 5-0. This deck was super sweet. I think it might have been 10-0. I'm not 100%. But grind, grind, grind. I've been saying for a while, Blue-Black Grindy is my favorite deck in this format. You just saw it come together. Moo is incredible. Knight of the Ebon Legion didn't really get to shine in that draft, but the card's a very good card. Better than Murder, I think, even. So take that card first pick. Windmill Slam Moo. Grind, grind, grind. Skeleton is great. Blade Brand, Thief. Just do it. Just draw extra cards. Get extra resources. We're now Weaponsmith, or, you know, as I like to call it, Soul Ring plus Demonic Tutor. Just, you know, put together a Blue-Black Grindy like this any chance you get. I think it's the best deck in the format. And as you saw, it can perform really well. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next week.